Hey Reddit, I'm here because I need some serious advice and maybe just a vent. I, 33M, have been married to my wife, Jessica, 31F, for about 7 years. We've had our ups and downs, like any couple, but lately, something has felt off. I don't know how else to describe it. We met in college, got married a couple of years after graduation, and we were one of those couples that everyone envied. At least, that's what I thought. We don't have kids, and we've both got stable jobs. I work in IT, while she does some kind of marketing consulting, though it's been hard to really keep track because she's been all over the place with her work. It started a few months back when she began acting differently, distant, always glued to her phone, picking fights over the dumbest stuff. We used to talk about everything, but now it's like she's hiding something. And every time I'd ask her if something was wrong, she'd snap back, saying I'm being paranoid or controlling. I chalked it up to stress, but deep down, I knew something was wrong. But you know how it is, you don't want to jump to conclusions and ruin your marriage over nothing. So, I ignored the gut feeling, hoping it would go away. Spoiler, it didn't. So, here's how it all went down. Last week, I came home a little earlier than usual. I work from home, and Jessica always said she'd be home by 5. I was looking forward to a quiet evening together, maybe order some takeout and binge-watch our favorite show. But when I walked into the house, it was eerily quiet. At first, I didn't think much of it. I figured she got caught up at work. But then I noticed her purse on the kitchen counter, wide open, with her phone sticking out. That felt weird because she's usually glued to that thing like it's her lifeline. I peeked inside, and something caught my eye, a string of text messages. The kind you just know you shouldn't read but can't help yourself. The first message was from someone named Kyle. I didn't recognize the name, but the messages were flirty. Really flirty. Can't wait to see you tonight. You know I love it when you wear that dress, it said. My heart dropped into my stomach. I felt sick, like I just swallowed a rock. I tried to tell myself it could be innocent, maybe it was a work thing. But deep down I knew. I scrolled through a few more messages, each one more gut-wrenching than the last. It was obvious that they had been meeting up, and the details were graphic. They were talking about sex like it was some casual chat over coffee. I felt this mix of disbelief and anger bubbling up inside me. I thought, this can't be happening. Not to me. But there it was, right in front of me. And then, out of nowhere, I heard the front door open. Jessica walked in, her face lighting up when she saw me, but it quickly faded when she noticed I was holding her phone. That's when the real chaos began. The moment Jessica walked in and saw me with her phone, I could see the panic wash over her face. It was like a deer caught in headlights. I didn't even give her a chance to say anything. I tossed her phone on the kitchen table, and I could feel the heat rising in my chest. What the hell is this? I spat, pointing at the screen. Her expression shifted from shock to defensiveness in a heartbeat. You're going through my phone? Are you serious right now? She shot back, crossing her arms. Classic deflection, right? I was seething. Seriously? You're going to play that game with me? I yelled, my voice shaking. You've been texting some guy named Kyle. Flirting with him. Meeting up with him. How long has this been going on? Her eyes darted around the room like she was looking for an escape route. It's not what you think, she exclaimed, her tone suddenly switching from angry to desperate. I can explain. Then explain, I demanded, trying to keep my voice steady. Inside I was a wreck, but I needed to hear her excuses, needed to hear how she'd spin this. She sighed dramatically, like she was about to reveal some great secret. Kyle is just a friend from work. We were discussing a project. I swear, it means nothing. You're overreacting. I almost laughed at that. A project? Sure, if that project was how to be a terrible partner. A project? Seriously? The way you two were texting sounds like a hell of a lot more than just friends. She rolled her eyes, her typical bitchy response. You never listen to me. You just jump to conclusions. I can't believe you'd go through my personal stuff. My mind was racing. I felt like I was losing control of the situation. I couldn't believe how easily she was dismissing my feelings, and it only fueled my anger. This isn't about your phone. This is about you cheating on me. What's the truth, Jess? She looked away, biting her lip as if she was deciding how to continue. I could see she was cornered, and it made my stomach churn to think how casual she was about betraying me. Finally, she muttered something under her breath about needing space, but I didn't buy it for a second. In that moment, it felt like the ground had shifted beneath my feet. I was flooded with a mix of emotions, anger, confusion, betrayal, but above all, I felt this deep, gnawing pain in my chest. I could hardly believe the woman I thought I knew was capable of this. I remember staring at her, searching for any sign of remorse, any hint that she understood the gravity of what she was doing. But all I saw was her defiance. She was more concerned about her personal space than about the fact that she was breaking my heart. It was surreal, like watching a bad movie where the protagonist is too stupid to realize they're being cheated on. As the reality of the situation sank in, I felt a wave of nausea wash over me. I had always considered myself a rational guy, someone who could handle things. But now, I was just a wreck. I paced around the living room, trying to process it all. My hands were shaking, and I couldn't focus on anything but the words scrolling through my mind. She's cheating on you. She's cheating on you. Then, in a moment of clarity, the anger morphed into this overwhelming sadness. I thought about all those nights we spent together, the plans we made for the future, the love I thought we shared. Did it all mean nothing? Was I just some placeholder until someone more exciting came along? Jessica's voice snapped me back to reality. Can we please talk about this like adults? She asked, her tone dripping with irritation. You're making it impossible. I wanted to scream that it was impossible because she had shattered everything we built. Instead, I took a deep breath, trying to rein in my emotions. Talk? About what? How you've been lying to me? How you've been fucking some guy while I'm here in our home? She opened her mouth, probably to throw out another excuse, but I cut her off. You've made your choice, Jess. This isn't just a misunderstanding. You chose to betray me, and I don't think I can ever look at you the same way again. That hit her, and I could see it in her eyes. For a brief moment, there was something, guilt? Regret? But it vanished just as quickly. She straightened up, adopting that bitcha facade again, and said, Fine. If you want to make this a big deal, then maybe we need to rethink our relationship. The finality of her words hit me like a ton of bricks, and I knew this was just the beginning of a long, painful journey ahead. After that confrontation, I felt like I was floating through life in a haze. I spent the next few days in a daze, replaying every moment, every word exchanged, trying to make sense of it all. I went to work, but I couldn't focus. My mind was a battlefield of anger and sadness. I found myself snapping at coworkers and pushing friends away because I just didn't want to talk about it. I knew I had to make a decision about our marriage, but every time I thought about it, my stomach twisted into knots. Part of me wanted to confront her head-on, lay out the terms, and make her see how badly she hurt me. Another part of me wanted to run far away from the betrayal, from the memories of love that felt so tainted now. One night, while I was lying awake, staring at the ceiling, it hit me. I didn't want to fight for a marriage where trust was shattered. I remembered the way she brushed off my concerns, her insistence that I was overreacting. This wasn't just a slip-up, this was a complete breakdown of everything we had built together. The next evening, I called Jessica into the living room. I was nervous, my heart pounding in my chest, but I knew it was time to lay everything out. She walked in, her expression unreadable. I took a deep breath and said, I've thought a lot about this, and I don't think we can come back from what you've done. I'm done pretending everything's okay. Her eyes widened, and I could see the anger boiling beneath her surface. You're just going to throw everything away? After everything we've been through? It's not that simple. You made your choice when you decided to betray my trust, I replied, my voice steady. I can't be with someone who doesn't respect me or our marriage. I watched her face shift, going from anger to desperation. Please, let's work on this. We can go to counseling. I can change. I was just confused. You have to believe me. I shook my head. No, Jess. I need to respect myself first. This isn't just about us anymore. It's about me finding my worth after everything you've done. I can't do this. The tears started to flow, and I felt a mix of sadness and relief wash over me. I knew I was doing the right thing, but watching her break down hurt more than I'd anticipated. I felt like a ghost in my own life, but I had to push through. I took the next step. I told her I was moving out. I needed space to clear my head and decide what my future looked like. She tried to argue, to pull at my heartstrings, but deep down, I felt a sense of freedom creeping in. I realized I was ready to reclaim my life, and that decision, while painful, was the beginning of my healing journey. Moving out was a whirlwind. I packed my essentials, leaving behind the memories of what was once a happy home. It felt surreal walking through the empty rooms, each one echoing moments that now felt tainted. I couldn't help but think about all the laughter, the late-night talks, and the plans we'd made. It was like being trapped in a bittersweet dream I couldn't wake up from. I settled into a small apartment not far from our house. The first few nights were rough. I missed the familiarity of home, but I also felt this weight lifting off my shoulders. It was as if I could finally breathe again. I started filling my days with distractions, hanging out with friends, focusing on work, and even picking up hobbies I had let slide over the years. I went cycling, something I used to love, just to clear my head. But as the days turned into weeks, I started to realize something. This pain, while profound, was also a lesson. I learned about self-respect, about not letting someone else dictate my happiness. I came to understand that I didn't deserve to be treated like an afterthought. In the end, Jessica and I had a few more conversations, mostly about logistics and the split. I stood firm. There was no going back for me. I'd finally found my voice. She still tried to persuade me, throwing around empty promises of change, but I didn't fall for it. I'd learned my lesson the hard way. If there's anything I could pass on to anyone in a similar situation, it's this: trust your gut. Don't ignore the signs. If something feels off, it probably is. Betrayal stings, but it's also an opportunity for growth. You deserve to be with someone who values and respects you. You don't have to settle for less. So, here I am now, a few months later, feeling stronger and more in control of my life. I'm embracing the uncertainty of the future, ready to find someone who genuinely deserves my love and commitment. Maybe one day, I'll trust again. But for now, I'm focused on healing and rediscovering who I am without her. Thanks for listening, Reddit. Your support means a lot. Looking back on everything that's happened, I can't help but feel a mix of anger and gratitude. Anger at Jessica for betraying my trust and at myself for not recognizing the signs sooner. But also gratitude for the clarity this experience has brought me. It forced me to confront my own values and reassess what I want out of life and relationships. During the hardest moments, when I felt like my heart had been ripped out, I found strength I didn't know I had. I started journaling, which helped me process my feelings. Writing down my thoughts became a cathartic release, allowing me to pour out my pain and confusion. It helped me navigate the mess of emotions that came with heartbreak, rage, sadness, confusion, and even moments of hope. I also learned the importance of support systems. Friends and family were invaluable during this time. I had friends who checked in on me daily, friends who pulled me out for spontaneous adventures, and even some who shared their own experiences of betrayal. It reminded me that I wasn't alone. We all have our struggles, and talking about them helps lift the burden. I began attending a support group for people navigating similar experiences. Hearing other stories was both heartbreaking and empowering. We shared our pains and frustrations, and slowly, I started to feel the layers of hurt peel away. I wasn't just another victim of infidelity. I was a survivor. As I began to rebuild my life, I also took a hard look at what I wanted in a future relationship. I want honesty, respect, And above all, communication. I learned the importance of setting boundaries and ensuring that I never lose sight of myself in a partnership again. The hardest lesson was understanding that love isn't always enough. Just because I loved Jessica doesn't mean she was the right person for me. It's a painful truth, but one that has empowered me to move forward. I've realized that I deserve a love that lifts me up, not one that tears me down. Now, I'm ready to embrace whatever comes next. I'm open to dating again, albeit cautiously. The scars are still fresh, but they've also become a reminder of my strength. I'm excited about the journey ahead, knowing that I have the tools to protect my heart and the wisdom to recognize the signs. So, here's my parting advice for anyone who finds themselves in a similar situation. You are worthy of love and respect. Don't settle for anything less. Heal, learn, and grow. There's life after betrayal, and it can be even more beautiful than before. It's been a few months since I made the decision to leave Jessica, and while the pain still lingers, I'm in a much better place now. The initial shock has worn off, and though there are moments when I'm hit with the weight of everything that happened, I no longer feel like a victim of my own life. Instead, I'm starting to feel in control again. I've come to accept that healing isn't linear. Some days I feel like I'm back on my feet, and others, it's like I'm drowning in memories of what could have been. But every time I think back to those texts, to Jessica's lies, and how quickly she dismissed everything we had, it strengthens my resolve to keep moving forward. She showed me her true colors, and now, I'm showing myself mine. Surprisingly, I've been reconnecting with people I'd lost touch with over the years, friends, family, even colleagues who noticed something was off but never pressed me for details. It turns out, when you're in a toxic situation, you tend to push people away without even realizing it. Being out of that environment has helped me rebuild those relationships and focus on the people who actually care about me. I've also thrown myself into new hobbies, things I didn't have the time or energy for when I was consumed with trying to save a marriage that wasn't worth saving. I've been hitting the gym more regularly, something I neglected while being too wrapped up in my own misery. I picked up photography, always wanted to try it but never did. It's become a way for me to look at the world differently, to see beauty in things I'd overlooked before. The one thing I've learned for sure is this: life doesn't stop just because your relationship does. In fact, it can flourish in ways you didn't expect. Jessica and I are officially separated now, and we're in the process of finalizing our divorce. She's tried to reach out a few times, but honestly, I haven't responded. There's nothing left to say. I'm not bitter anymore. I'm not filled with hate. I've accepted that people make mistakes, and sometimes those mistakes are unforgivable. But that doesn't mean I have to carry that bitterness around with me. I've decided to let go, not just of her, but of the anger, the betrayal, and the hurt. Because in the end, holding on to that only keeps me stuck in the past. So here I am, single for the first time in years, and honestly, I'm okay with it. I've learned more about myself in the past few months than I did in all the years I was married. And that, I think, is the silver lining in all of this. If I could leave you all with one final piece of advice, it would be this: don't be afraid to walk away from something that isn't serving you. You deserve love, respect, and happiness. And sometimes, the hardest decisions lead to the most freeing outcomes. Trust me, you're stronger than you think.